It is now 6:30, and so we will begin our forum, if everyone is ready. I'm Shelley Tugis, Director of the Hudson Area Public Library and moderator of tonight's School Board Candidate Forum for the February 17th primary election. The primary will determine which 4 of our 5 candidates will be on the ballot for the election, which is April 7th. So our candidates are Megan Rosowski, Maria Rudy, who are both the incumbents, and then we have Jeannie Castro, John Dolan, and Joe Rivera. And you'll see that they have their name tags. Before we do introductions, I would like to share a quick personal statement. I was a public education reporter in South Central Minnesota in the 1990s, and I covered a number of school district consolidations and school closings. It's now been 20 plus years. I still remember the tension and suffering in those communities. Families were anxious, angry, and experiencing genuine grief. I also remember how the elected officials anguished over these decisions, being torn between fiscal realities and the impact on the people they served. So I just wanted to start tonight by validating all of those experiences. So tonight we will have a series of questions. Each candidate will have a maximum of 2 minutes to answer, and Carrie in the audience has a yellow folder, and that means you have 30 seconds left. And if you hit the 2-minute mark, I will give you a gentle reminder. So I'd like to begin by having each candidate take 2 minutes to introduce yourselves and what applicable skills and background you would bring to the board. And you'll have a chance to talk about top priorities you have in a separate question. So we did draw names out of a bag, and Maria will go first, and then we'll follow with Joe and continue in a circle, each person starting a different person each time. So Maria, go ahead and get started.
Great. Well, good evening, and thank you, Shelley, and the Hudson Area Library for hosting tonight's forum. Thank you as well to my fellow candidates for stepping up to serve our community. My name is Maria Rudy. I'm a current board member, and I'm running for re-election. Last spring, I was elected to complete the final year of a former board member's term, and it has been an honor to serve. My husband Jerry and I have called Hudson home for 20 years. We chose Hudson because of its schools, but we stayed because of the people. Our sons, Matthew and Nathan, have grown up in Hudson's classrooms, activities, and neighborhoods. Along the way, we've experienced a community that shows up for its kids. Parents supporting teachers, volunteers creating opportunities for students, and neighbors stepping in during challenging times. That commitment is what makes Hudson special. For more than a decade, I've served the community as a parent, as a volunteer, and committee member for area nonprofits and philanthropy. This past year, as a school board member. Those experiences have reinforced a simple truth. Excellent schools don't happen by chance. They require thoughtful leadership, clear communication, and responsible stewardship of taxpayer dollars. My guiding principles as a board member are listening, grounding decisions in data, and balancing educational priorities with long-term financial responsibility. Our community deserves choices choices that are deliberate, transparent, and focused on sustaining both academic quality and fiscal health over time. Professionally, I manage complex programs and budgets in healthcare, balancing accountability for public funds and real-world outcomes. That experience shapes how I serve on the school board, grounded in data, guided by values, and focused on the long-term stability. Hudson schools are much more than buildings. They are the heart of our community and an investment in our shared future. I believe in where we are headed, and I would be honored to continue serving this community. I respectfully ask for your vote on February 17th.
Thank you, Maria. Joe, you're next.
Good evening. Thank you, Shelley, and to the Hudson Area Public Library for hosting this tonight. And thanks to everyone running in this election. I'm Joe Rivera, and before anything else, I'm a dad. My mornings probably look a lot like yours. Backpacks, lunches, making sure shoes are on the right feet, and getting our kids out the door and off to school. I have a first and second grader in the district, so what this board decides affects me not just in theory, but what we live every single day. We're living this alongside you. Over the last few years, I've spent a lot of evenings at school board meetings, not because I had to, but because I wanted to be there, to see all the decisions that are made on behalf of our kids' future. I'm also in my second year on the district's Teaching and Learning Advisory Council. That's a group of teachers, administrators, parents, and community members that get together to review curriculum and help shape where instruction is headed. So I'm not just watching from the audience. I've been involved in what impacts our classroom. After 20 years of active duty service in the United States Air Force, my wife and I could have chosen anywhere to live. But we chose Hudson because of its schools and its community. We believe education brings confidence, opportunity, and character, and that matters in our house. My career has taken me all over the world, from Greenland to Antarctica, Hawaii to Korea, leading in high-pressure environments, managing people, budgets, and tough decisions. And I learned something very important along the way. Strong leadership shows up in how you prepare for tough decisions and how clearly you communicate them. This past year hasn't been easy. Closures, enrollment challenges, increased taxes, budget pressure, that's real stress for our families. Some tough decisions needed to happen, but moving forward, we need better planning, clear communication, and stronger accountability. And that's why I'm running, to bring steady, common sense leadership that listens, plans ahead, and keeps students at the center of every decision. Strong schools don't just happen by accident, they happen with strong leadership. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Megan, go ahead.
Thank you. And to echo my fellow candidates, thank you, Shelley, and thanks to the library and for all of you for being here tonight. So my name's Megan Rosowski, and I'm currently serving my first term on the board. I live in St. Joe with my husband Anand and our two daughters. One is in kindergarten at Holton this year, and the other is in 5th grade at Willow River. For me, serving on the school board is centered in my belief of a high-quality education being the right of each and every child. And I want to give back to this community that has given so much to me and my family. My background is in higher education research and policy analysis. I've wanted to focus my career on access and outcomes for students in higher education, with the goal of them being able to go into the career that they wanted to. Moving into the school board, I wanted to give back to the community and shift some work into K-12. And as you know, K-12 into workforce and higher ed. It's so important for our economy that each and every one of our kids is ready, and it's so important for their own lives so that their talents and interests, they can follow those and they can thrive. Over my time on the board, I've learned a great deal about school finance and the difficult realities of our budget. And I've also learned a lot about curriculum, the needs of our teachers, the needs of our students, and how there's so much to balance in a budget that doesn't have a lot of room. As a public servant, I believe it's my responsibility to face the realities before us and make data-driven decisions that think about the well-being of each and every student so that we can preserve the exceptional education and opportunities our district offers to our students each and every day. And central to this is retaining and recruiting the very best teachers and staff, the people we're lucky to have in the classroom with our kids each and every day.
Thanks, Megan. Jeannie, you're up.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jeannie Castro, and I'm excited to be running for school board for Hudson Schools. And thank you, Shelley, for bringing us all here tonight. I really appreciate it. I am a mother of 4, which is my winning role in my life. We moved here about 30 years ago and decided to live in the Willow River neighborhood. We moved 2 times, but it was still within the school, and that was always a priority for us. I feel like the Willow River environment is so inviting, and it was something that was really a priority. I I graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I'm an art major, and I also went to New York for a year and studied at Fashion Institute of Technology. When moving back to the Twin Cities to be closer to family from Hoboken, New Jersey, we chose Hudson over St. Paul because of pretty much because of the schools and the charming feel of the town. I'm a business owner in town. I run an art gallery called Cream of the Crop Artist Gallery. It is located on 2nd Street downtown, and we also have a booth at the Minnesota State Fair for the 12 glorious days of the fair. I also am the director of Supercharged Printmakers, which is a printmaking studio, and we educate, write grants, and provide opportunities for artists. I am so excited to be a candidate to serve, and I'm open to listening to community members. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeannie. Go ahead, John.
Shelley, just to echo for the 5th time, thank you for the event and for putting it on, and for the audiovisual stuff. I know that there's a lot of work that goes into that, so thank you. My name is John Dolan. I am a Hudson born and raised alumnus. I've spent all my early years here in Hudson. I went to Trinity for preschool. I went to North Hudson, Willow River, the Hudson Middle School, the Hudson High School, and I graduated from here in 2006. Hudson education is so important to me because it set me up for where I am today. After graduating from the high school, I was lucky enough to be appointed to the U.S. Air Force Academy. After there, I moved on after receiving my bachelor's degree in civil engineering and spent 7 years as an active duty officer in the Air Force and deployed 3 times to the all-expense-paid sun and sand trip to Southwest Asia that many of you have heard about before. In my family life, after the Air Force, we decided to move back to Hudson with the primary reason being because of the schools and the quality of education that it has here. I have 4 kids in the district today, ranging from pre-K to 7th grade. So every decision that I would make as a board member would directly impact not only my own kids, but all the other kids in the district as well. In terms of my professional experience and my applicable skills and background that I would bring to the board, I think they are a great fit. On a day-to-day basis, I work for a global Fortune 1000 company, and I'm the Senior Facilities Director. I manage a portfolio of over 120 different locations across Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. I'm responsible for overseeing all the real estate transactions, an active construction portfolio of over $200 million, and creating solutions to complex solutions that other people can't find.
Thank you. So Joe, we're going to begin with you on this round. So the first thing I want to cover are issues related to the Willow and Holton closures. So there will be sort of 2 parts to this, budget implications and then transparency on where you stand. So the district estimates saving over $3 million a year by closing the 2 schools. Save Our Schools, the community group, has served the district with a legal complaint that claims the decision to close is invalid and that an injunction is needed to stop the process until these claims can be heard. If the closure is delayed and the schools remain open next year, how would you propose to recover that $3 million? And then, so that's the budget part. And the transparency part, 2 of you are on the board, or are on the board, so let us know how you voted. For the rest of you, whether you support this decision, why or why not. And please share whether you support the legal action initiated by Save Our Schools. So I'm sorry, that's a lot. If you want any clarification, ask. Go ahead.
All right, so that's a mouthful, definitely. So school closures, first, are deeply personal, and they're deeply emotional, and I want to acknowledge that. Willow and Holton are more than just buildings. They're memories, friendships, and stability for families. My family is living through these changes too. So I understand the weight of these closures, not just as a candidate, but as a person, as a parent. You know, in talking with families and listening to community conversations and public comments, one thing I heard from many families was this: they understood the need for the district to consolidate. They just hoped it wouldn't be their school. That's human. That's understandable. It shows how hard this decision truly was. At the same time, we have to be honest about the realities facing our district. We've seen enrollment decline while spending didn't adjust at the same pace. Add to that 6 elementary schools operating at about a 66% capacity, and continuing to running all those buildings simply wasn't financially sustainable in the long term. Consolidation, while painful, was necessary to protect academic programs and student services. Districts across Wisconsin and across the country are facing this very same reality. Where I believe things could have been better is in the process and preparation. Before making a decision this significant, families should have had a full picture: boundary impacts, transportation changes, confirmed cost savings and where they'd be reinvested, and the long-term future use of those buildings. Those details build trust. I don't believe there were any bad intentions, but I do understand why many families, including mine, felt they didn't have enough clarity along the way. Now that the decision has been made, our responsibility is to move forward thoughtfully. My focus is on making the transition as smooth as possible for students and staff, ensuring savings are redirected back into the classroom, and improving planning and communication so families never feel in the dark again. We need leaders who do the hard work before the decision so families have clarity, confidence, and trust. Our students, including my own, deserve leadership that is compassionate, prepared, and focused on what comes next.
Thanks, Joe. Megan, go ahead.
Thank you. So 3 years ago, when I was on this stage for the first candidate forum I took part in, one of the main reasons I was running for school board was to help keep Holton and Willow open. Those are the schools my children attend, as I said earlier, and at the time, I truly believed we could make it work. I thought enrollment would turn around, funding would follow. Sadly, I was wrong about that. I'm a data-driven decision maker, and I believe that you need to look at the facts on the ground. You have to adjust. You have to focus on the realities of what the district is facing budget-wise. I do want to say I understand that there is a lot of grief. I have a lot of grief. My kids have a lot of grief. This is very hard. It's not easy, and I know it's difficult for our staff and our students. I made the decision to close schools. I voted to close Holton and Willow because there's not enough money. We're at 66% capacity, as Joe said. And I prioritize protecting our current class sizes, preserving our strong academic and extracurricular programs, and retaining our excellent teachers and staff through competitive pay and benefits. As far as the lawsuit, I just want to note, to this date, no school board members nor the district have actually been served in the lawsuit, even though it has been filed. I think it's probably good if I don't talk too much more about the lawsuit.
Thank you, Megan. And Jeannie, why don't you go ahead and begin?
Okay, so I'm under the understanding that our taxpaying community passed a $5 million non-reoccurring operational referendum in April of 2025. I think one of your questions was like, how is that going to impact our community and the budget, and when we have the funds that are available to keep our schools alive at least for one more year. What I'm suggesting is, because this is so fast and the closing of the schools is like to redistrict and do all that is in 4 months. Last time we did redistricting and changed everything around, it took 11 months. So I'm saying, like, I realize that there's a school closing and I'm not happy about it, like a good portion of our community, and I believe you all know I spoke up about it. But it's too fast. So the 4 remaining elementary school capacity have the capacity in that forum, it has that model, it has the capacity to serve 2,500 K-5 students. And it says there's availability for for 4K programming with enrollments and at an 88% capacity, but that means there's only 270 additional students. Like, there's 12% left capacity. So I'm proposing that we pause moving the kids and give the district time to figure this out, because now they've tossed it into the community and say, what options do you want? Purple, yellow, or blue? And it's just way confusing, and it doesn't seem well thought out. So I am proposing we just put pause on actually moving the kids, but go ahead
Okay.
with the scenario.
Okay, thanks. So I just want to clarify, so Megan, because you're on the board, you don't want to address the lawsuit. I just wanted to see if Joe and Jeannie wanted to specifically say whether you support this request for the injunction, or if you don't have an opinion about that.
Is Joe going first?
Yeah, go ahead, Joe. We started with you, just if you
Yep.
want to answer that part.
Yep, that's fine. I don't support the lawsuit at all.
Okay. Jeannie, is there anything you want to add to your comments about that?
I support the lawsuit. I think that we could stand to pause and really construct how this is going to work. I think
Okay.
a lot of things are moving way too fast.
Okay. Thank you, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to make sure that everyone had a chance to answer that. So, John, go ahead.
Shelley, can you read that one more time for me, just to make sure I get it right?
Yes, that's so
Thank you.
fair.
Thank you.
So the budget part and then the transparency part. And so, as you know, the district estimates that we'll save $3 million a year because of these closings. If that is delayed and the schools remain open next year, how would you propose recovering that $3 million in savings? And then the transparency part is whether you support the decision or not, and whether you support the legal action that's been initiated by Save Our Schools. I hope that helps.
I got it.
Thank you.
To answer the first part, there's something that people may not notice, is that in the budget models, with all 6 schools open, the school district is actually projected to be in a surplus in the 26 and 27 year. So even if all 6 schools remained open for another year, the budget is still solvent, and they're actually in surplus condition. So in terms of any other cuts to the budget, they wouldn't be required outside of the budget model that has already been created. I would encourage everyone to go look on the budget models that are out there so you can see it for yourself. In terms of the decision to close schools, similar to Jeannie and Joe, I don't agree with the decision to close school right now. I think it was rushed. And in my professional opinion, I really don't agree with the process. We went from passing a referendum in April to a decision in August that we're going to close a school no matter what, and there's no other way, to, okay, never mind, yes, we are going to close 2 schools in October, and we're not giving any of the referendum money back to the taxpayers. To date, there's been no plan to give any referendum money back to the taxpayers, even after they've decided to close 2 schools. There's a lot of, specifically in the decision process that was missing, there was a lot of details that were never answered when the decision was made. A detailed verification of the projected cost savings, verifying that all class sizes could stay within class size guidelines. In the first 4 options that were presented in the boundaries, every single one had class sizes that were over the maximum. Every single one. Some other items that haven't been answered yet to this day are, what are the impacts to busing times, busing costs, and can the district even maintain 4K and wrap care at all of the schools that are remaining? To get to the second part of your question to the lawsuit, I do support the injunction. I think that taking a breath and taking a pause to make sure that a plan of action going forward, with all the details figured out before creating irreparable harm, is key to supporting our kids going ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Maria?
Great, thanks, Shelley. The vote on October 13th was an extremely hard vote, and it was one that I spent a lot of time contemplating and talking with folks, some of whom are in the room tonight, some of whom are up at the table here tonight. Our schools are more than buildings, and they are the places where our kids learn and grow, and where families and communities connect, and those buildings are active through the evening hours, just about every day of the week. They are centers in our community, and the decision to close those two schools forever changed the Willow and the Holton areas. And for that, it hits hard on our community, and particularly those neighborhoods feel it. This decision wasn't rushed, however. It followed years of careful study. It did have community input multiple times, participated in those sessions several times myself. Honest conversations about enrollment trends and why those trends were going down. A look at projected models where we underperformed year over year, even against the most conservative estimate of our enrollment trends. We explored many options. Previous boards delayed actions for up to 3 years in the hopes of the trend reversing. And we understood that this decision would have tremendous impact on families and neighborhoods. In terms of the legal injunction, I would echo what Megan says. To date, nobody has been served, despite the legal filing back in December. We are in communication with our legal counsel. We feel confident that the merits of this case will show that we will win and we will persevere. We know that the federal claims have been removed, and it is potentially being moved to the state court, so pending further discussion. To the point about the school budget, I always love data and I love numbers. Real quick.
Yep, we are running you're out of your 2 minutes.
Okay.
So.
Perfect, thanks.
And you'll have opportunities to
Great.
work it into some other answers here.
Shelley, can I just clarify something real quick?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify real quick that I did not say that I was against the closures for the schools. I said that I understand the need to close the schools because of what was going on, and that I just think the process could have been better. So I just want to make
Understood.
sure that we're clear with that.
Yep, understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Some of you have touched on this, so you may want to shorten your remarks, but I'm going to go back to the process here. So my understanding is the district task force began in 2021 to look at long-term facility issues. And then in 2022, the board paused its own decision about school closings for 3 years. And in the interim, there were meetings and forums and conversations, and I did not go and track how many or how well attended they were. But the question is, if there is a delay in this planned closure, what decision-making process would you propose that hasn't been done, or perhaps in your opinion wasn't effective? So essentially, what is the do-over plan? Or what would you like the do-over plan to look like? And I believe we started with Joe, so now we're at Megan.
Thanks, Shelley. So yeah, this has been a long process. It's been discussed for a long time. Started with that facility task force, which was a group that included community members, anyone who wanted to sign up at the time. And they identified through their process and a lot of meetings that Willow and Holton made the most sense to close if there's a school closure. So, sorry, I got distracted. Can you read the question again? It'd be great if people didn't yell out while we're trying to talk.
Absolutely. Let's, so if there is a delay in the closure, and I did walk through what I understood to be the process. So if there's a delay, what is the decision-making process you would propose moving forward that, hasn't already been done, or what was done, in your opinion, wasn't effective? So essentially, it's like, what is the do-over plan if there is a delay in the closure?
Okay.
And so go ahead and
So-
start fresh.
This is maybe not the answer that you want, but I believe that based on the merits of the case, that there will not be an injunction and there will not be a delay. So I don't think we're going to reach that point. I'm not going to give a percentage, but I just think it's very unlikely. I do think that the issue is, John mentioned earlier that we have a budget surplus next year if we keep all the schools open. Actually, we won't. We spent an additional $2 million more on healthcare costs last year than we anticipated because healthcare costs keep going up. Originally, it was looking like we'd have a $49,954 surplus in 26-27. But that was with higher special ed reimbursement, which we're not getting. That didn't come through from the state. It was supposed to be at 42% this year, 45% next year. We're at about 35%, so that's about $1 million, $1.5 million a year. Healthcare costs are going up. So we are already operating in close to a budget deficit before schools are closed. Budgets are very tight, and school districts, our funding is almost completely based on the number of students we have and what our per pupil revenue is per student. That's fallen more than $3,000 behind inflation since 2010. And our special education reimbursements are so low. Last year, we transferred over $9 million, that's more than 10% of our budget, from the special education, from the general fund to the special education funds. So I think, the lawsuit, it takes time, it takes money, and I think to call a spade, John, you filed that lawsuit, you're a part of it, and so I think
Your
it's
ti-
just important when we're up here that everyone speaks to their role in these things a little bit, I
Okay.
think.
Thank you. Jeannie, go ahead.
So when you say a do-over, do you mean doing the whole thing over, like changing everything? Because I have some things is that what you're meaning?
Well, essentially, yeah, if there is a pause, and then it's sort of back to the drawing board in terms of what your process then is, what in your mind should that look like? What should the board do if there is a pause on this and you need to reconsider?
Well, I think we need to take the time as a board and as a community to look at all the options. Like if you were to pause, I would pause on a lot of the spending, but that's already been done because there was a lot of frivolous spending on branding, rock letters, the $1.5 million administration upgrades to the middle school. So there's a lot of things that I would have not done or done, but it's too late to get that back. What I'm really thinking that I want to pause and not do and redo is not talk about selling the schools, because those are our biggest assets that we have as a community. And that would also limit, what do we do when our schools do grow? There's not much room with the capacity being just 12% to go for students. So by not selling the buildings, we could save our taxpayers money if we need to build a new building down the road for $50 million. Because I know similar situations that have happened in Stillwater, and now they're building new schools. So I just want to throw that out, that these buildings are our most incredible assets, and we need to hold on to those.
Okay, thank you, Jeannie. John, go ahead.
Okay, all right. So I'll just go address first part first. So yes, I am part of Save Our Schools. Yes, I am supportive of the injunction. And if anybody wants to look, you can go on the Wisconsin Circuit Court website. You can see all the filings that have been done today. And you can see the order from the federal court that remanded the case back to the county. It's public record, everyone can go look. Moving on, in terms of the process, that would be the redo or the reevaluate. The real focus in my facilities world is it's all about the requirements, right? So where do the kids live? I think the process should focus on first evaluating on where do the kids live, what schools are geographically closest to where they are, how can we verify what cost savings we can achieve in detail and with verification behind it, how does transportation costs fit that, what's the risk analysis for the future. The voters and the taxpayers don't want to pay for expensive additions or building a new school in 5 or 10 years, so we can weigh the analysis of, well, what if we hold on to a building for 3 or 5 years instead of having to build a new one? The other part to really look at is 4K and wrap care, how do we ensure that we can provide those at all of the schools? And also plan for building disposal or disposition, listening to what the community wants to do with them. They are incredible assets. We've had schools in Holton since the mid-1800s and downtown since early statehood. The community should have a clear voice in terms of what happens to the buildings and what comes next.
Great, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Shelley. I'm going to echo a little bit of Megan here and say I don't think the likelihood that the injunction will happen is strong. In terms of the process and what has happened, you're right, there was a facilities discussion back in 2021. It comprised of over 35 members, 20 parents, 7 staff, 5 building principals, 3 community members. They met over 6 times. They did extensive walkthroughs of every building, looking for themselves and assessing the needs of each building and having tough conversations and going through multiple iterations of options to address the growing capital needs of our facilities. The reality is the funding model that we have in the state of Wisconsin, no school district can address the growing capital needs that they have for their buildings without going for a referendum. And the previous boards in this district did the correct thing by bringing community members together to walk through and understand what the realities were and get their input on how we manage the capital needs across 6 buildings. And from there, we had additional discussions about the enrollment trends and the implications for what the physical footprint of the district needed to look like in order to continue to meet the needs of our community within the budget that we had. I think to 2 pieces that have been put on the table as far as questions tonight from other candidates, the 1.5 million upgrade or bringing the admin into the middle school, that was in direct response to community feedback to sell the administrative building and move it into an existing building. And the cost of that was paid for by the sale of the administrative building. 4K wrap care has never existed in all of our schools in any of, let me rephrase that. 4K wrap care has never existed in the same buildings and in any given school year.
Okay, thank you, Maria. So I think we have made the full circle. No, Joe, sorry. Yeah, I'm starting to lose track of the circle. Thanks, Joe.
No, you're fine, you're good. One of the things that really hit me hard was when Jeannie talked about the referendum, this last operational referendum that passed. And last year, I was against the referendum. I was against the referendum because the writing was already on the wall as far as what we needed to do to move into the future. A lot, and I feel my heart goes out to the Willow and the Holton parents because a lot of you were misled to believe that that referendum would go ahead and save your schools. That wasn't by anybody in the district or anybody on the board, but there were people in that Vote Yes committee that was going out and telling community members, this $5 million will save your school. That's just wrong. So my heart goes out to you guys that voted for that. That passed by 6 votes, I believe. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we talk about, per pupil funding, those kind of things haven't kept up since 2010. Well, it's 16 years later, we can't keep using that excuse. If you walk around our schools, you see all these beautiful, shiny things. You see 8-foot letters at EP Rock. You see different things like that. Why would we go ahead and build those things or pay for those kind of items when we know we're dealing with a budget deficit and the possibility of closing schools? Those are the kind of things when I think of when we talk about a do-over. Now, a do-over still doesn't change the fact that 600 kids have been lost as far as enrollment in the last 10 years, 11 years. They're not walking through that door tomorrow. But where I talked about the do-over is just making sure the process at the end was tightened up so that we know a true look of what our schools are going to look like, how big our classrooms are going to be, even if Safeway even has enough buses, if drivers, things like that are important to us. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. So just let's step back and have a broader look. And take a moment or 2 minutes, specifically 2 minutes, to let us know what you think the top 2 to 3 priorities or issues are that you think the board should be focused on moving forward. And we're at Jeannie.
Okay. The top 3,
2 to 3 issues that you think are the top priorities in your mind.
okay. The top priorities are our kids and our community, making a smooth transition if we are going forward with the school closures, which we are until something else turns up. But I think that to do a smooth transition, taking our time with it, so I know we've talked about not having to redistrict more than every 8 years, but last time it took 11 months. So to give families a chance if they want to move, be in a home that's closer to their school. I know that we have the opportunity to make this as easy as we can on our children, and I think that's really important. We have a strong community based around all of the schools, and it's going to be really hard to send all the kids that were walkers in Willow on buses all over the district. And I know this doesn't just affect the schools that are closing, but it affects other schools as well. I don't think those schools or those parents even knew that their kids were going to be affected. But there's one of the scenarios, that the purple, red, yellow scenarios, that 2 kids from 5th grade go to a completely different school. So this is a really important time for our children, the elementary years, and to treat them all with the respect in this closure. I know it's really hard for a lot of them. Thanks.
Okay, Jeannie, thank you. John, go ahead.
Thank you. For me, the top 2 to 3 big priorities that the board should focus on looking forward is, 1, not rushing any decisions, making sure that really clear plans that have been validated and vetted are in place before jumping into something, making sure that class sizes are where we want them to be, making sure that the curriculum and the funding is there, that we have the after-school care or the 4K or the wrap care and the busing figured out before we make a decision that we can't go back on. The next real big one for me is spending control. We are in a tough fiscal environment. As Joe said, the inflation, school funding was disconnected from Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, school funding was disconnected from inflation in 2010. We got to be really careful with every dollar we have. It's got to be focused on needs, not wants, from here on forward. There's several items in looking backwards that maybe a different decision could have been made, but that's where it's got to be on. Especially looking at the middle school and high school. The difference in class sizes between the graduating class in 6th grade is substantial. The largest changes to the student body that are coming in the next few years are the middle school and the high school. That budget cannot be balanced by continuing to just close schools. Real tough decisions on need versus wants have to be made at both the middle school and the high school level.
All right, thank you. Maria?
Thanks, Shelley. When I think broadly about my top priorities, it's ensuring every student receives a high-quality 4K through 12th grade education that prepares them for career, college, and life. It means supporting rigorous academic standards, expanding opportunities that meet students where they are, and ensures that our programs remain responsive to the changing needs of the workforce and post-secondary educations. I think key forces that we need to really keep our eye on are the evolving and evolution and integration of AI. How are we teaching our kids to be responsible users of AI? How are we as parents and educators in the community using it and modeling that? How are we teaching our kids guardrails and setting up appropriate guardrails? Equally important, and I think other members up here have talked about, is the responsible stewardship of public dollars. I take serious the obligation to manage our taxpayer dollars wisely. This year, we were projecting about a $1.3, almost $1.4 million surplus. Because of the change in special education funding and the reduction, we'll lose about $1 million plus from that surplus, so that we can make our special education whole as it deserves to be. And it will get tighter in the coming years. So we're going to have to watch that closely. But my priority is on funding and supporting the things that help us retain our teachers, who are the drivers of our educational programs, and ensuring that we have strong curriculum.
All right, Joe.
All right, so thank you. The number one thing, kind of as John alluded to already, is our spending. One of the first things I would do if I was elected onto the board would be to look into an independent audit of actually the way we spend our money here in the district. I know every year we have an audit, and it's said in the school board meetings. I know I've sat through there for a couple hours, and that's the audit showing you that we dotted our I's, crossed our T's. I want to have an audit that actually takes a deeper dive into ensure that all of our funds are being spent on improving educational outcomes for our students, not just shiny new things. We need to make sure that that is where our money is going. You know, we talk about our school district has a great credit rating, because we do. You know, we pay our bills on time and do all that good stuff, but we just need to make sure. We need to make sure that our kids aren't being shorted for shiny things. Second thing that no one else has talked about here today is I would focus on recruiting. And what I mean by that is recruiting kids back into the public school system. Now, I know they say that our capture rates have been the same over the years. You look at Trinity, you look at St. Pat's, they've had the same kind of enrollment, but no one talks about the homeschoolers. There are 30 plus co-ops of homeschools operating within a 50-mile radius of here. And that has all ballooned over the last 2 to 3 years. So ask yourself, as someone in this district, what does that mean? People are homeschooling because they don't trust public education no more. They don't trust that schools have the kids' best interests in mind, and that kids are falling behind. Well, me as a parent of a first and second grader, I can be somebody who can go out there and show what we are doing, build that trust. We've lost that trust over years. It's going to take years to get it back, but that is something that I would be committed to do so that we can get more seats, more people in our seats here in the schools. Thank you.
Sorry, I've been trying to control my own timer here. I missed that one. Megan, go ahead.
Top 2 to 3, can you just say it again? I'm sorry.
For you, what are the top 2 or 3 priorities that the district needs to be focusing on?
Great, thanks. I think, one of the budget, which I've talked about a lot, that's at the top, but I'll step down from that a little bit. I think school safety, student safety, we want to make sure our schools are safe. I don't want to talk about tragedies that we see across the country, but, we need to be prepared. Our school district does a lot of great work. We have safety plans. I think there's always more work that can be done in that area, as well as making sure our kids feel school and safe at school and they feel welcome. I think continuing to focus on meeting the educational needs of our students. We've seen a lot of great growth in our test scores, in literacy, and in math with new curriculums that have been instituted. Our K-5 literacy program is awesome. I cannot tell you the words that my 5-year-old is sounding out phonetically. We've seen our scores go up from 5th grade to 6th grade instead of go down, which we've seen in the past. And we've seen great gains in middle school math. So I want to keep moving that forward. Along with that, I think it's really important that we make sure that we continue to focus on meeting the needs of our special education students. And I'll say this again, but competitive pay and benefits for our teachers and staff. Because if we don't keep our teachers and staff, we just don't have the schools. We won't have the schools that we have right now. It all kind of comes together to provide the well-rounded opportunity, the wide array of courses our kids have, all the clubs at the middle school and the high school so kids can find their people, so they're not lonely. Making friends makes it so much easier to go to school. I'd hate to see us cut back on
Thank
the
you.
meat. Thanks.
Okay, I hope you
No,
could
that's
finish
good.
your sentence.
You gotta cut me off. That's totally fine.
We're raised to be Midwestern polite and not do that, so it's really hard for me. Okay. So we will begin with John. And the question is, what's your understanding of how Wisconsin funds public schools and how the state and national demographic shifts are making an impact here?
Okay, Shelley, I think I got it all. I'm ready. So I will be the first one to say that I am not an expert in state funding for educational and all the policies and laws and everything that applies to it. What I do know, though, is that state funding is directly connected to the number of kids and the resident students that are in your district. As we've already talked about earlier, the enrollment and resident students are directly connected, right, to how many dollars your school district gets. So you take the number of students and you multiply it by the dollar figure, and then you can get a total amount. In terms of how the national and state demographics are impacting funding, right, it's not that difficult of a math problem to say if you have 100 students today times $100, you get a certain amount of money. And in the future, if you have 95 students times $100 a student, it's less. Nationally and statewide, the general demographic is that people are generally having fewer kids than they did 25 or 50 years ago. That's a pretty wide accepted fact and just source of truth that's out there. Now, what's interesting is that St. Croix County isn't exactly following the trend of everywhere else in the state of Wisconsin. So that's kind of an interesting data point. But that doesn't change the total state or the national demographics. So in terms of the funding dollars, it's fairly straightforward, at least from my initial understanding of total students times dollar amount equals total.
Thank you. Maria.
Great, thank you, Shelley. Yeah, school funding, that is it's something I'm still learning and walking through every day as we talk at the board level about budgets. Our funding is a mix of state and local tax dollars. About 10 years ago, 60% of our funding came from state, 30% tax dollar base. That has now flipped. The majority of our funding comes from our local property taxes. And then the state comes in and provides additional support through equalization aid and through per pupil aid, and then special education, which is another categorical aid. Revenue limits drive everything that we have. It says here is the maximum amount of money that you can have. And John is right, it's based on the number of students in your district. You are correct, John. St. Croix County is growing. However, it's in our 55 plus population. It's not in our 0 to 4 population. That actually continues to decline year over year. And so with fewer kids being born, we have fewer kids coming into our school district. Our schools have capacity for about 2,900 elementary students. We're sitting just over 1,900 elementary students. So we have an enrollment problem. I love the idea of going out and saying, let's recruit students. It's about recruiting people to come live here. And coming to live here is a hard thing when the cost of living and housing doesn't support for young families to move into our district. We also have people that are living or staying longer in their homes. And so that makes it harder when there isn't turnover. The funding model for school districts, yes, we decoupled, or I should say the state legislature decoupled back in 2009. That means our district lost $11 million in funding because of that decoupling from inflation.
Thank you, Maria. All right, Joe, your turn.
All right. So I'm not going to pretend that I know what these formulas are, because I don't. But what I can tell you is that, I know that funding is tied to the number of students. You know, since around 2014, we're down about 600 kids in our schools. You know, we talked about recruiting, Maria, and we talked about, you know, families moving here, and that's where I kind of start to get a little bit upset more about when we start talking about last year's referendum. I was against that referendum last year. I was against that referendum because for $30 million now, for the next 6 years, it's going to be harder for those young families to come and move into this district. We talk about recruiting them. We talk about them coming here. That's going to make it harder. Furthermore, it was said that, you know, that referendum is just a cup of coffee. I sat here last year and I said, it's not going to be a cup of coffee. I got my tax bill in December. It was $700 for that cup of coffee. I would love to see how that tastes. I know it wasn't worth no $700. What we need to do is to keep pressing forward. And, you know, our per pupil funding is not going to change. It's been made clear by our state legislatures. And just deal with what we have and make smarter choices financially with our budget. Thank you.
Okay, Megan.
Thank you. So Wisconsin school finance is the formula is bonkers, you guys. Like, I've made Bonnie sit with me and try and explain it to me, and I get so frustrated when I can't calculate it. But anyway, that's all to say, the school funding formula doesn't work well for a district like ours where we have high property values. Over the years, as Maria alluded to, we've seen a larger share of our school costs get shifted onto taxpayers, right, in the form of property taxes. Another big problem, there's like primary aid, secondary aid, and then tertiary aid. And tertiary aid goes negative, which this sounds boring and annoying, I know, but it takes like an extra $1.something million away from what we would get. They actually subtract from us in this third level of the aid formula. So the funding, to kind of think of it, it's like a pizza pie, and then it gets divided up, right? And we're, I don't think, getting our fair share of the pie from the state, especially when there's currently a surplus of taxpayer dollars in Madison. I don't think that it's good for us to just sit back and say, well, they're going to do what they're going to do in Madison. You know, a lot of us board members have participated in conversations and lobbying with our elected representatives. And I think we should continue to do so, especially when it relates to special education funding. If special education was funded more fairly, it would make a huge difference in school budgets, not just for us, but across the state. And so, you know, I plan to continue to writing to our elected representatives. And I will say, with the $5 million, if that had not passed, we would be running a significant budget deficit right now and we would be eating away at our fund balance. And once your fund balance gets below about 20% of your budget, now you're doing short-term borrowing to pay your bills, which then costs taxpayers more.
Thank you. Thank you, Megan. Let's see, Jeannie, did we get to you for that? No, okay, it's Jeannie's turn. Thank you.
Yay. Okay, so I understand that you guys have done a lot of lobbying, and I appreciate that, and I think that is a great route. I'm looking at historical births, and in 2020, we were down, and it looks like now, this year, we have more births, actual births, and it's going up. And I know that I sat in on some of the meetings, and then you guys said that it was going up gradually, and I understand that, and there are facts that do prove that. So right now, we have a low kindergarten class, and that is affecting our low enrollment for kindergarten now. But currently, our births have gone up, so I'm optimistic that way that they're going to continue going up. When we see that in the records. Also, there's a lot of developments, and I think we're making harsh judgments that not everybody can afford to live here because people are moving in, and they're also moving into our downtown neighborhood. I see a lot of my friends, like my kids' friends, that are now moving in with their families, and they're looking forward to raising kids here and having similar experiences that way. So while I know that, like, I don't know how the numbers work, but I do know there's a formula, and I do know we're not getting the funding that we need from the state. But I see on my level as a community member that our areas and our towns are growing with a lot of people enthusiastic about sending their kids to school here. And I remain that way, optimistic that our community is growing.
Perfect timing, thank you. I have a special ed question, but I think I'm going to move to something different, and maybe we'll get back to that. So an advocacy specialist I know once told me, nothing will change in public education policy at the state level until parents flood the Capitol and demand it. So these issues that we've addressed tonight, funding, keeping pace with inflation, the special education cross-subsidy, the reliance on local property taxpayers in terms of the operating referenda, and more. And I acknowledge that there are residents who don't universally support more school funding. Okay, let's make sure we acknowledge that. But what can the board do to engage parents and advocates to be active and effective at the state level? And I think John is, no, John, you just went. We're at Maria.
It's a great question. One, I think providing information to our parents and our communities, honest conversations about how the budget is structured, the realities that we face, encouraging them to engage in conversation with elected officials. Those are important things. If we're going to change our funding model, and we're talking about advocacy at the state level, it starts with advocating with those representatives. Letters, phone calls, voting. Those are important things that all happen. Our parents and our community members show up every day in big ways for all of our schools. From providing meals for our teachers at PTO, at parent-teacher conferences, providing fundraising for our music education classes so they can buy new instruments and new equipment, to helping to run clubs and activities or coach. These are ways that they engage in art, and they can provide very direct stories to our legislators about the impact our schools have on their students' lives and on our community, and the importance of having these schools in our community.
Thank you, Maria. Joe, go ahead.
All right, so the first thing that I believe that the board could do is not explain the budget the way Megan just did it. My head exploded. I am sorry, my head absolutely exploded. No knock on you, Megan, but whew. But if the board wants to advocate what's going on and try to make things for our community to understand, the first thing that we need to do is just make cuts. Show the community that you're doing everything you can do within the budget. Not just say, we're going to do a cut here. Show exactly what it's doing and what it's saving as far as our educational outcomes. I keep cutting back to that. Everybody talks about, when I talk to people in the community, they talk about all these buildings, all these shiny things, and how it's a waste of our taxpayer dollars. We need to get out there and actually listen to the community. You can have a conversation till the cows come home, but are you listening to what people are saying? That's a real big issue here. We start talking about cuts, and the district will come back and say, we've made $2.9 million in cuts over the last 3 years. That sounds really good. But when I tell you that the budget is over $80 million a year, that's a little bit over 1%. That's not enough. And that was shown by the community rejecting the referendum 2 times before it passed this last time. We talk about these budgets again. We see the constructions. We see all those things going on. We see different raises still going, knowing that we are in budget deficits, knowing that we're going to have budget issues. That's the first thing that we could do. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. Megan?
Well, I'm just going to come back to special education funding for a moment. But, like Maria said, we do talking about it at meetings. I'm drafting a letter now for the board to review coming up to send to our senator and representative and the governor to ask them to please fund the special education funding that they promised us. It has been signaled by both the governor and Speaker Vos that they are interested in looking at funding the special education funding that they promised to schools. So, folks could look at that letter and decide if they want to send something on their own. It's an awkward place for the school to tell people to advocate. I don't know how exactly to do that, but to share the information so that people could also build off of that if they want to. And I will say, as far as, budget cuts, I think it's important to keep in mind that 60 to 65% of our budget is staff and benefits, and then another 15 to 20% is fixed costs, like, utilities, snow removal, et cetera, which leaves, 10 to 15% for, why can't I think of the word, discretionary spending. Discretionary spending includes things like computers, curriculum, supplies for the classroom, buses to take kids to regional band competitions. It's not that, the budget sounds big, but we have 5,000 students and we have a lot of staff. And so it is hard to find those spots. But I think it's a great time, if you care about special ed funding and our school's budget, to reach out to our elected representatives if that's something you're interested in doing.
Thank you. Jeannie?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. So we were talking about advocacy and everything from special education to the reliance on local property taxes and those operating referenda, the funding not keeping pace with inflation. These are all state level issues and federal level issues as well. How or what do you see as the board's role in getting parents engaged at the state level, not just at the local level, but where some of these big decisions are being discussed and made?
Okay, so you're saying we can be cheerleaders to get people out at the state level to be an advocate for really getting funds for our programming, because it's so important. Like, I was also really disenchanted that I found out that the autism program that was so great at Willow River was canceled. And I didn't know that until I was talking to the teacher board. So to keep those programs alive, we need more funding and to get out on the state level and write letters. But I'd be super enthusiastic about getting our community involved in that. I know that the board talked about that last time, but and almost blamed us for not doing it. But I didn't realize that that was something that it seemed like you just dropped the ball on that. I would have been happy to go. And also speaking that I don't have kids in school anymore. I just know how important our schools are for our community and how it keeps our community thriving and it keeps people coming back here. So that could be one of the reasons too, that we get community members to do that. I just think Hudson schools are amazing, and I'd be happy to be an advocate for them. I know my son was really enthralled with swimming, and he is a swim coach now because of his experience on swim teams. So there's a lot of really valuable things that we have and that affect us later. So I'd be happy as a not even parent with a kid at school right now.
Great, thank you, Jeannie. John, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question, but how do you get more grassroots movement and involvement from the local community, right? To me, it starts with communication and listening. Joe kind of touched on this already. To really get people involved, you got to listen to them. What do the parents want to see? What does the community want to see that can really motivate them to get involved? I think that something that we use at work that's very, very clear is nothing does replace results. In order to get people's buy-in to go outside the community, to write letters, to post on Facebook, to organize a bus, to go to an event in Madison, etc., we have to do our part to show that we're going to walk the walk. That means making tough decisions. It means looking at the budget. It means focusing really, really hard on the needs and excelling in reading and writing and mathematics and knowing that we're maintaining our budget to the nth degree and showing the community that we listened, we heard them, we did what they want, and then, as related to that, then providing the information that can help the parents. It's difficult as a community member to know what to say to a state legislature or an assembly member without having any of the facts or the data that's out there. Providing the data and the facts so they can write letters or they know who to talk to or what's important to them would be, I think, a really great start.
Great, thank you. I think we'll go back to special education since everybody was sort of touching on it. And I think it's important to have this background if you're watching because it's kind of a complicated issue, but it has tremendous impact in districts all over the country. When special education services were mandated by the federal government, Congress pledged to cover up to 40% of those costs. In my experience with public education, the most the federal government ever paid was 17%. And the state contributes as well, but this is a recent development that Wisconsin underestimated the costs and will likely cover 35% of the costs instead of the 42 that they had sort of sent out to the schools. So that shortfall, my understanding is it could be $1 million. And when there's these gaps in special education funding, basically schools have to take money from the general education fund because those special ed costs are mandated. And it's kind of horrible to talk about because you feel like you're pitting general education students against special education students. That's a hard conversation to have. So schools have been pondering this and school advocates have been pondering this topic for decades. Any ideas? And when we're looking at that shortfall, what would you prioritize in terms of cutting? Just talked about what percent of the district funds go to staffing. So where do you target those cuts and what are you intent on keeping? Because you're going to have to look at something now and down the line with those special ed shortfalls that hit the budget. And I believe, Joe, lucky you, get to take the tough question first.
No, it's okay. The first thing we have to do is just be honest with the community. We have to be honest, like you said, Shelley, Congress mandates that we spend a special portion of our budget for special education. And it's important. It's important that not only special ed students, but all of our students receive the same kind of care and attention that they need and that they deserve to be successful, especially when they walk out of our schools. When it comes to talking about targeting cuts, well, we can't target cuts towards teachers or support staff. We need them. They are on the front lines every day. They are the ones who make the school go round. That's a hard stop. We need them. We'll have to look at other cuts. We'll have to look at other cuts where we can whether that's in administrations, whether that's extra things that we have in our discretionary funds. We just have to look at it. I haven't looked at where everything lands or what it is, but we have to make those tough choices. And with making those tough choices, that comes back to where I talk about with leadership and being able to clearly communicate and let everyone know what is going on. While there are people who won't agree with you, it's okay. You just need to be honest and ensure that everyone knows what's going on.
Okay, Megan.
Thanks, Shelley. So I think, if I had a magic wand to make legislators in Madison do what I wanted them to do, I would like them, I'm not going to use the confusing words this time, Joe, but right now what they do is they set a dollar amount for special education, and they say, we think this is going to cover 42% this year and 45% next year. But then that dollar amount, it's just that dollar amount. However it breaks down and gets sent to schools, they say, sorry, it's short of the 42%. So I think that special education funding should be guaranteed at the percent that the district sets it at. It's sort of, or the state sets it at. It's sort of like how we have a cost of living increase to Social Security every year. If Congress let it go and go and go and go, then all of a sudden you have to vote for this huge increase. So if you keep special education funded at a percentage, we don't fall behind year after year after year after year and then have to get a big chunk of money to catch up. So that would give schools some consistency, so you know what you're getting in your budget. So that's what I hope and want to advocate for, and I'm not going to give up hope and I'm not going to give up advocacy. When it comes to cuts, the administration, along with the school board, looks at a lot of different options. As our enrollment has gone down, we have cut sections in K through 5. As enrollment goes down, there will also probably need to be cuts in teachers and staff in the middle school and at the high school. We'll have to continue to right size, but special education is, I believe, both a moral and a legal obligation, and making sure those students get what they need is a top priority for me.
Thank you. Jeannie.
I believe we need to keep the percentage that goes to special education, and I also support what Joe said about keeping our staff and support staff. I know that special education is really important. I see firsthand how it worked in my kids' classes, where the children were integrated into the classroom. They did really well. They had support staff there, so I think that's important that we hold on to that staff and our teachers. It seems like there's already been some cuts where teachers are now more in charge of special ed, so I think just coming from a personal point of view, with the kids being integrated into the classroom, it worked out really well at Willow. I noticed also how the classrooms responded to the children that were in their class. It made them more patient. I know I'm coming from a more heartfelt part of it, just seeing firsthand how classmates interacted with one another, and I feel that program is really rich, and it does not, there's no room for cutting it.
Thanks, Jeannie. Go ahead, John.
All right, so Shelley, thanks for this. I think all of us can really agree that special ed funding isn't where it needs to be. This is a really deeply personal item for me. I know you can't tell from looking at me, but I have multiple kids that are in the special ed program. My special ed experience for my kids started in Hudson when I was deployed on the third time back in 2016. And I know that my son and my kids would not be where they are today or on the trajectory they are in life without special education funding. It is a terrible place to be, as you mentioned, to end up in this place of special ed funding, general fed, where does the money go? It's a terrible place. But what I can tell you is special ed funding is incredibly important, and it is foundational to the kids being able to succeed in their lives, and my kids wouldn't be where they are without it. In terms of looking if there's a gap, because there is, right? It is true today that the funding is not where everybody wanted it to. What is kind of interesting and is somewhat sadly positive way is looking at it is since 2015, the funding percentage from the state is actually up. It's still not where it needs to be, but it's actually gone up. So it's generally positive momentum. In terms of, well, where do you find the money, right? I think Joe got it really, really well. It is about open and honest and transparent communication, knowing that teachers in the classroom are key. We got to stay true to our fundamentals and foundations. And then we really have to go look and have a conversation with everybody in the community of what is okay and what's not okay and what do they want. Whether it's specific administration costs, admin pay raises, the cadence at how often vehicles are replaced, the cadence at other items, and so forth. But it's all about open and honest and transparent communication about we only have so much money and what's okay and what's not.
Okay, thank you, John.
Yeah.
Maria?
Shelley, do you mind repeating the question? I apologize.
So essentially how to handle that cross-subsidy, that transfer of general ed funds into special ed. There, as we sort of said, there's really not a magic solution that everyone has come up with, but it does result often in that you have to make cuts. So what would your priorities be in terms of what do we save and what do we look at cutting?
Yeah, I mean, we make special education funding whole in the district every year. Last year, we moved $9 million from the general fund. This year, we will move money again. It's not about cutting. We do the right thing and we make the funding whole. We take the money that comes from the state. It has never been to the level that the state has promised. We have never received the level of funding from the federal government for special education. About 1% of our budget comes from the feds. So it's not about cutting, it's we do the right thing and we make it whole. And then we look at the budget as a whole and we say, how do we balance this? And over the years, we have made cuts through attrition and through, as enrollment has declined, we've looked thoughtfully at reducing sections. And those conversations happen in open board meetings every month. I think in terms of where would I love to see the future of special education funding? With the $2 billion plus surplus, I would love to see the state say, we're going to honor the 60% funding that we were aiming for at the last biennium. And for us, that level of funding would be significant for us and help reduce the amount of money that we have to take whole. So if people are looking for talking points to go and talk to the state legislature, there's a prime one for you.
Thank you. We're getting right up at just a few minutes before 8, but I do want to end this forum on a really positive note. So if just give us a little grace to go tiny bit over. So all of the candidates can talk about, let us know your perception of the district's strengths, the points of pride, what you love about our schools. And Megan, we start with you.
I love this question, Shelley. Thank you. As a parent in the district, I feel so very lucky for the experiences my two daughters have had so far. Fantastic teachers, from the classroom teacher to music to art to gym. My kids love going to school. They love to come home and show me what they did at school each day. Fifth graders and loving doing our homework as much now, but we're working on it. But the curriculum that we have right now in literacy, as I mentioned before, what they're reading, what they're writing, it's just fantastic. There's spelling tests again, which got me really excited. The math curriculum's fantastic. Seeing these test scores increase, seeing the work that our reading specialists and interventionists are doing to make sure kids who are, at risk, that we're focusing in and helping them, and those kids who are above at risk, we're making sure that they continue to move forward as well, but also making sure that they're meeting the needs of students who maybe are doing really great, but they might need something more challenging to keep them interested. We have so many parents who love our schools, who support them through boosters in sports, come to band concerts, restaurants across town that do fundraising events. I think we have a lot of pride in Hudson in our schools. I know I do. The arts and music are fantastic. I mean, if you've come to the Christmas concert, you're like, is this professional? Like, how did I only pay this amount of money to come see this show? So I think we do a great job of making sure that we have a wide variety of courses and extracurriculars so that every student has something for them.
Thank you. Jeannie?
Okay, so I think our school district is amazing. I have 4 kids that graduated from here, and they've all been really found their niche, whether it be swim team or theater, the arts. All of the teachers that I've encountered totally enjoy teaching. They it's been a personal experience. I am a Willow mom, so I was the first so I am really excited about my kids and how they came out of these schools. I have 4 that graduated. One that's a doctor and an artist, and my son works at St. Croix Central teaching teaching English as a second language, and my other son is studying at UMD. The youngest had a phenomenal experience, and the oldest one did too, from the oldest to the youngest, which is how the Willow River jingle goes. But every year has been so fun for my kids, and the teachers are wonderful. I know I just keep going on about it, but the community built around our schools is really important, and I've met so many great parents, and my children have had an opportunity to have lifelong friends through school. Just 2 years ago, my youngest graduated, and they all showed up on the Willow River playground and had their pictures taken, the whole group that went from kindergarten to graduating together. It's just been a unique experience at Hudson Schools, and all of our programs, I can't single one out, are phenomenal. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeannie. All right, John.
Thank you. For me, some of the really big things that I really love about Hudson Schools, our community, its strengths, and what I'm really proud of, number one for me is the teachers in the classroom. Seeing firsthand, day in and day out, that the interactions that my kids have with the teachers' commitment to the kids, and providing amazing educational experiences for them day in and day out, and treating them as their own kid and being committed to seeing them succeed is number one. A great example is Mr. Olson and raising chicks in the classroom. The favorite name that I heard about the chickens was Jeff. For those that are out there, that's one of my favorite names that he learned about. And I know that had a really lasting impact on my daughter. Big number two is the community commitment, involvement, and the expectation of really high-performing schools and education in Hudson. Not every community is this committed to having high-quality education, and it is an amazing thing to see about Hudson. And the last one is the support and the continued focus on including arts as part of the curriculum. It has an amazing benefit to all students that get to participate. And very, very selfishly, just at the end, as a past Raider athlete, it's always fun to see when the football team wins on a Friday night, or when the track team has an amazing performance and sets a new school record, or when the Raiders are off to state, off to go chase another title.
That's great. Maria.
Great. That's a great question, Shelley. My kids have been in the district since kindergarten. They're 9th and 10th grade now, so I've seen the evolution and the flow through every stage of elementary, middle, and high school now. And there's so much we have to be thankful for and have a lot of pride about. Agree with you, John. Our educators, they are the backbone of our school districts. The work they do every day should be applauded. They show up in big and small ways every day for all of our kids. Things that I absolutely adore about the experience that Hudson offers for all of the kids. We offer arts and music and orchestra starting in elementary. There's not a lot of other elementary schools and districts around here that are able to do that. And that carries forward. I remember Prairie Fire, I think it's under a different name, when my kids were at Hudson Prairie, and so the introduction of theater at elementary and now in the middle school onto the high school. If you haven't had a chance to come to a theater production here at the high school, they're phenomenal, and the spring one is coming. I'm excited to see it. The music education continues on. We offer it at elementary, middle, and now in high school. If you get a chance to come watch the marching band, yes, I have a kiddo in marching band, and they are amazing. They work so hard starting in April. We have a breadth of things from sports, from clubs at our middle schools so that kiddos can connect at important times in their lives and find their people, their friends. We should have great pride in all of this, and I look forward to being able to preserve that for future kiddos.
Thanks. Joe, you'll wrap it up for us.
Sweet. All right, so the first thing that I want to say that I love about this district, it's actually coming up at the end of March, is the annual Daddy-Daughter Dance. My daughter is over the moon to go to it every year. I'm not going to lie to myself and make you think that's because she wants to spend time with me. She loves the cotton candy. She loves the cotton candy. And if you guys haven't been to it, there's 1,500 or so people that come. And it's really big. It's held here in the high school, and it just shows how our community comes together around our kids. Another thing that I like is our programs like the Hudson Community Education. My son this last year, he signed up for the Lego engineering. So he's sitting there building things, and him and his Legos, and just seeing those kind of things, the things that we offer for kids and adults. You know, another thing that I really love is all the care that our staff takes for the kids, our administrators, and just the community in general. We have people like when I talked about being on the Teaching and Learning Advisory Council, we have administrators, great administrators like Shannon and her team who just come around and just bring the community together and show what we are doing to support our kids. We have great principals. I think my principal is the best, Joe Banky. If you haven't met him, you're missing out. That guy, I don't know how he knows everybody, or he is everywhere. He's like a ninja. You know, we have great people in our administrative offices. We have people like Tim Miner who helped me get registered from across the country and going above and beyond to welcome me and my family to the district. Those kind of things mean something. Our community means something. And I just couldn't be any more happier or more proud to be part of the Hudson Raider family.
That's very nice. Thank you. Well, that's our time tonight. And I just want to thank all the candidates for being here tonight and for being willing to take on a leadership role. It is really a tough time to be in local leadership. And I think you're more likely to get ulcers than accolades right now. But I hope I speak for a majority of the community who would say that we appreciate and value citizens who have passion and courage to serve. So thank you. Thanks for being here in person. Thanks if you watch on River Channel. And just remember the primary is February 17th and the election itself is on April 7th. Have a nice night.